All right, lesson 7.3. This is video 1. This is power functions and function operations. All right. So basically all we're going to be doing is, if you'll remember the notation f of x, and f of x, all f of x stands for is, remember, it stands for a function of y, okay, or a function of x. And so the only thing the first letter represents is, the first letter just represents which function we're actually going to use. So when you see it f, we're going to use this function right here. And when you see the g of x, we're actually going to use this function right here. So all this means is when I say find f of x plus g of x, well, f of x is x squared plus 2x plus 1. And we're actually going to add the g of x. And g of x is 2x squared minus 3x plus 4. Okay, so we're actually going to add these two functions together. And just like adding polynomials in chapter 5, we just have to add like terms. So we have x squared plus 2x squared is going to give us 3x squared. 2x and a negative x, or sorry, 2x and a negative 3x. 2x and negative 3x gives us a negative x. A 1 and a 4 gives us plus 5. So that's really all there is to it. When we subtract, it's actually going to be the same. So if I take f of x, which is x squared, so I get x squared. Let's get rid of those extra marks. Plus 2x so it's plus 2x plus 1. Okay, and we're going to subtract the 2x squared minus the 3x plus 4. Now remember, the rule is when we actually go through and we're subtracting, what we actually need to do is we turn this to a plus and we change all of these signs to whatever the opposite is. Okay? So then I get x squared and negative 2x squared gives me a negative x squared. A positive 2 plus 3 gives me a plus 5x. And a 1 and a negative 4 gives me a negative 3. Okay? Alright, so let's take another look at another example where we're actually dealing with fractional exponents. So let's say I wanted to take f of x plus g of x. Well, f of x, again, is just 2x to the 1/2, and we're going to add negative 6x to the 1/2. Okay? So a 2 plus a negative 6, remember when my variables and my exponents are the same, then I can just add the coefficients. So I end up with a negative 4x to the 1/2. Okay? Alright, when I'm subtracting, remember, when I'm subtracting, I'm going to take 2x to the 1/2 minus, and I end up doing negative 6x to the 1/2. So when I'm subtracting, I have to change my signs. So 2 plus 6 gives me 8x to the 1/2. Okay? Alright, so that pretty much covers adding and subtracting. You're just going to take the two variables and add them. Okay? The next examples deals with multiplying and dividing functions. So if I had f of x, and again, look at your reference sheet, your f of x is 4x, and I'm actually going to multiply x minus 1, g of x. So all I have to do here is distribute, so 4x times x gives me 4x squared, and 4x times 1 gives me a negative 4x. Okay? Okay. All right, let's take a look at another example. In this example, we're actually going to be dividing. So if we take the expression f of x, which is 4x, and I divide x minus 1, and I can't simplify these because of that minus sign. So that's really all that you can do. All this one involves is making sure you plug in what each item is. Okay? All right. Next example. Now we're going to be dealing back with rational expressions. And remember, all we're going to do is f of x is 3x, and we're going to multiply that times what g of x is, which is x to the 1/4. So multiply your coefficients, 3 times 1, which will give you 3. And remember, this is a 1, or we can turn this to 4 over 4, because when we multiply two items with the same power, or when we multiply two items, we have to add their powers. So 4 plus 1 would give us x to the 5/4. Okay? All right, well, we're actually dividing these. We're gonna plug in, so we get 3x over, and g of x is x to the 1/4. Okay. Now remember from our rules before that we actually cannot have any fractional exponents in the bottom, and we do need to simplify these because we have an x on the top and an x on the bottom. So in order to simplify this, remember x to the 3x is x to the first. We're going to rewrite that with a 4 over 4, so we can actually get common denominators. And then we just subtract. 4 minus 1 would give us, the 3 doesn't change, but the 4 minus 1 would then give us x to the 3/4 as our final answer. Okay? All right, well, this concludes video number 1. Go ahead and view video number 2.